Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and Koreans living abroad. This is a special English broadcasting regarding the current security issues around the Korean Peninsula, especially opposition parties. Candidate Yoon Suk-yeol announced a more conservative security promises regarding the future Korea-US alliance, and also regarding the inter-Korean questions, and also regarding the relations with China, some issues there. So I will touch upon some crucial concerns regarding People's Power Party's main opposition party's candidate Yoon Suk-yeol's campaign pledge regarding national security and diplomatic issues. As we all understand, despite soaring tensions, the Moon Jae-in administration remains cautious in criticizing the apparent saber-rattling by referring to North Korea's recent weapons test with such terms such as, only soft terms, concern, deep concern, or regrettable, or very regrettable. They have not used the word provocations. Conspicuously missing from the statement by the President of the National Security Council is, as I told you, this is a right word to say provocation, which South Korean officials stopped using in September last year when Kim Yo-jong, the sister of Kim Jong-un, North Korean leader, blasted President Moon Jae-in for calling North missile launch a provocation. And since that time on, the leftist administration Moon Jae-in government continued to initiative to agree to an end of war declaration on the Korean Peninsula, which is not welcomed by our key allies, and which is also very much unrealistic in terms of its implementality and practicality. So I should say this should be abandoned as soon as possible. Also, as I analyzed 2 days ago with a special English comment on the North Korea's saber-rattling, the Policymaking Bureau of Ruling Workers' Party in North Korea, which was presided by leader Kim Jong-un, held a meeting and decided to examine the issue of restarting all temporarily suspended activities. Pyongyang's hint at restarting its nuclear and intercontinental ballistic missiles test came a week after the Joe Biden administration imposed sanctions on 6 North Koreans involving in the regime's missile programs on January 13th. The provocative act also came after the North carried out 4 missile tests this month, including hypersonic gliding vehicles. And the North's latest brinkmanship should be taken seriously by all parties concerned, involved, especially the Moon Jae-in administration, since the resumption of major weapons test by Pyongyang is feared. The SCAPA, Seoul's dialogue-centered inter-Korean policy, too soft approach, not realistic. And as we all understand, North Korea has maintained a moratorium on nuclear and ICBM testing since April 2018, largely as part of its critical leverage in negotiations with the US at the time. As a reason for considering the end of the freeze on major weapons test, Pyongyang blames the United States for its hostile policy, despite trust-building measures it undertook, ultimately failing to mention its continued shows of force. Also, international security environment is becoming more worsened and worsened, as we are focusing on Russia's hostile posture toward Ukraine when it comes to diplomatic issues. And especially North Korea is taking advantage of this kind of international security framework happening around the Ukraine military conflict. And since the collapse of the second United States-North Korea summit in 2019 with the Biden administration showing no sign of easing sanctions, North Korea has continued to threaten to change the Biden administration's attitude to ease sanctions, especially making pressure on concerned parties to eliminate sanctions possible. And the recent provocative missile test suggests that its technologies are evolving at a faster pace than previously imagined. And North Korea fired 2 short-range ballistic missiles eastward from an airport in Pyongyang on Monday, with the KCNA boasting of accuracy, security, and efficiency of the operation of the weapon system under production. This is a very serious symptom that South Korean government should pay more attention to. And amid this kind of security crisis happening around the Korean Peninsula, Yoon Suk-yeol vows to rebuild the Korea-US alliance, and he calls Moon Jae-in administration's peace process a complete failure. So he said that he would expand South Korea's role in US-led multilateral initiatives, including the quadrilateral strategic dialogue known as a Quad. He said that I focus on bolstering comprehensive and strategic alliance with the United States based on the shared values and principles of freedom, democracy, and the market economy, constitutionalism, and human rights, he said during a press conference on his diplomacy and security policy pledges at the party's headquarters in Seoul yesterday. Also, the main opposition candidate also criticized the Moon Jae-in government North Korean policy, calling its peace process on the Korean Peninsula a failure. Yoon Suk-yeol said that Moon Jae-in administration and the ruling Democratic Party of Korea have failed to reassure the people of their safety from potential nuclear attacks from North Korea, while focusing on the issue of realizing an end of war declaration. And it is too much natural for Yoon Suk-yeol for him to vow for stronger national defense. And he emphasized again, international sanctions imposed against North Korea should be maintained until the communist state completely gives up on its nukes. But he's still willing to bring aid programs for the North when it shows effort and progress in denuclearization, according to this announcement. Also, it is very important to have consistent principles because it is crucial to normalize ties with the North and denounce the incumbent Moon Jae-in administration one more time by calling the current peace process a failure. And also, the candidate said changing actions depending on the situation and putting up peace shows cannot bring progress in improving our relationship with the North. It will only make North think South Korea is useless. Also, in details to make strategies, he mentioned 3 existing defense systems, including kill chain preemptive strike system, the Korean Air and Missile Defense, KAMD, and the Korea Massive Punishment and Retaliation, KMPR, plan. They will play the key role to deter North Korea's missile test. Also, on the idea of holding Inter-Korea Summit, he said that it can only happen when agreement on concrete plans are made in advance. But this is a very important, mentioning. He said that he will dismiss the possibility of South Korea's nuclear armament as a way to deter nuclear missile threat. But he said that country already has a strong weapon system that can cause considerable damage to any aggressors. He reiterated his statement, saying a preemptive strike is the only way to prevent North nuclear missile attack. But as I analyzed by my broadcasting analysis yesterday, actually the issue of South Korea's nuclear armament is not such a simple question. It's a very complicated issue. In terms of its concept of a broken nuclear umbrella provided by the United States to the security of South Korean lives, 52 million lives of South Koreans. Security experts and some scholars specializing in Korean security issues, since last year, I remember September, they have proposed several times that 52 million lives of South Koreans had better be protected more efficiently when South Korea develop its own nuclear weapons. If North Korea does not denuclearize according to the international principles proposed by the concept of CVID. So as a countermeasures to pressure North Korea to come to denuclearization timetable for more talks. This kind of diplomatic security rhetoric, pushing South Korea into nuclear armament, could be very efficient topic to be discussed, and if possible, to be initiated by the concerned parties. However, the Yoon Suk-yeol, People's Power Party's candidate, have not accepted some American security expert proposal that South Koreans have a right to walk out of the NPT regime's treaty articles because they are directly threatened by an increasing number of North Korea's nuclear weapons, and it is desirable for concerned parties to begin talking about development of nuclear weapons in South Korea. But this issue was not accepted by presidential candidate Yoon Suk-yeol. He also emphasized that the joint military exercises with the United States, which have been suspended or reduced in size by the current government, would also be revamped. Also, for the envisaged transfer of wartime operational control from the United States, he said that country will have to secure strong surveillance and reconnaissance capabilities. Until then, it is not desirable. Also, humanitarian issues were raised by him, saying that all the human rights of North Koreans had better be respected. So he will establish a foundation of human rights in North Korea. And he said he would make South Korea the global pivot state, and highlighted the importance of economic diplomacy and economic security. He again emphasized the importance of Korea-US alliance, and he said that he would promote cooperation in the advanced technology and the industry sectors as well. And relations with China, he wants to boost cooperation in the economic sectors for the interest of the two countries. but he has not specifically mentioned that 3 no policies imposed by the Chinese Communist Party should be stopped or should be renegotiated, something like that. He did not touch on the issue of 삼불정책, 3 no policies, which was agreed between Moon Jae-in administration and the Chinese Communist Party about 3 years ago, something like that, regarding the issue of THAAD, also missile defense system. He has not specifically mentioned in concrete terms on the issue of 3 no policies. But I think this issue is also a very important issue, that when conservative, right-wing government is restored in the next coming presidential election, after winning the election, when a new government is born, when the new government is inaugurated, probably May this year, after presidential election day, March 9th, I think these kind of issues should be renegotiated between Chinese government and South Korean government. This is my opinion. Anyway, I think People Power Party's candidate, presidential candidate Yoon Suk-yeol has touched some important part of the security issues on the Korean Peninsula. And not 100%, but he has, I think, 80% satisfied some worrying mind of South Korean conservative groups who have been too much stressed by the Moon Jae-in administration's pro-North and pro-China policies without securing enough conditions for the real security interest of the Korean Peninsula. And this government has been too much soft on North Korea's aggressions and provocations. And Korea-US alliance has been deteriorating to a certain degree. And all of this must be revised in the future when new government is born. This is my security and diplomatic comment today regarding Yoon Suk-yeol's main opposition party's presidential candidate, Yoon Suk-yeol's also pledge on security and diplomatic issues. I think we have to change power this time. Many reasons, not only those reasons I have mentioned today in this broadcasting analysis, also in many other areas like social issues, economic issues, educational issues, so many reasons why we have to change government in coming this presidential election. Thank you. I'll come back to you next time with more issues. Thank you.